I got it, babe. I got it. Yes! Get into it. Get into it. Yes! We're back. Yes! Dearest friends. All right. We're done. We're done. We're done. Hi. Welcome back to Storytime with Chris. As I always say, you don't have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, max relax and chillaxing time, in between time, mean time, scheme time, study time, break time, BP time, anytime. Do you want to hear a highly animated voice? Bringing you wonderful stories of magic, fantasy, science fiction, adventure, music, and many, many more in between, which I don't own the music that we're listening to in the background. Oh, Simply Waves. Okay. Lots of really cool ambient music popping up in my feed lately. So appreciate all of the wonderful YouTubers who create ambient music that is copyright free. So really appreciate that from y'all. More than y'all understand. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay. All right. Now we're back with Bran and Will, and they have traversed through the glass castle, and they have solved the riddle that was given to them in the Rose Garden, where they met one of the great lords of the dark, the Rider, who is from the second book in this series. And now Will and Bran have to meet with Gwion, and he told them, like, if you're able to find your way, I'll be able to meet you on the other side. So now we're going to continue our reading. Chapter 12, The Journey. The blazing words faded from the air above Will's head, leaving the imprint of their brightness so that for a few moments the letters still hung ghostly across his vision. Beside him he heard Bran let out a long, slow breath of relief. Gwion's voice said warmly from the shadows, "And you did find your way." Blinking, Will saw him standing before them in a high vaulted hall whose white walls were hung with rich tapestries and brilliant paintings. He looked back. There, across the hall, was the great carved door which had slammed behind them when they had first found themselves in the maze. Of the maze itself there was no sign at all. Bran said with a quiver still in his voice, "Was it real?" Then he gave a small shaking laugh. "That's a silly question now." Gwion came forward to them smiling. "Real is a hard word," he said, "almost as hard as true or now. Come. Now that you have proved yourselves by breaking the barrier of the city, I may set you on the way to the castle." He pulled back a tapestry curtain on the wall, revealing the entrance to a narrow circular staircase. He beckoned, and in line they went up the stairs. Will followed Gwion's feet and quiet in their soft leather shoes. The stairs seemed to wind endlessly up in curving sections. On and on they went for so long a climb that his breath began to rasp, and he felt that they must be hundreds of feet into the sky. Then Gwion said, "Hold a moment," and paused. He took something from his pocket. It was a heaven iron key. In the dim light from one of the narrow opaque windows set into the staircase wall, Will saw that the top of the key was wrought into a decorative pattern, a circle quartered by a cross. Will stared motionless. Then he looked up and saw Gwion's dark eyes glittering enigmatically down at him. "Ah, old one," Gwion said softly, "the lost land is full of signs from long ago, but few of its people now remember what the signs mean." He opened the small door, barring their way, and suddenly sunlight was pouring down on him, washing away the last oppressive memories of the mirrored maze. So, like I told you, the lost land is sectioned up. So, they have entered the lost land. The first place they had to go to was the city, then the country, and then the castle. And they have to pass tests in each area. So they've left the city, they're in the country, and they're about to head into the land. Excuse me, the castle, sorry. Will came out with their faces up to the blue sky as if they were prisoners emerging from jail. They found themselves behind a balustrade of wrought gold, looking out over the golden glittering roofs of the city and the mounded green sweep of the park, just as they had done in the very beginning, but from a greater height than before. In a moment or two they saw that the balcony on which they stood was the lower rim of a great curving white and golden roof, and they realized that it was this, the palace of Gudno, empty palace of the Lost Land, which was topped by the marvelous dome, banded in crystal and gold, that they had first seen glittering in the dawn. Craning his neck, Will thought he could make out the very top where the golden arrow pointed to the western sea. Guion came and stood at their backs, pointing in the same direction. Will noticed a ring on his fourth finger with a dark stone carved into the shape of a leaping fish. Out along the line of his arm, they saw the roofs of the city end, giving way to a green-gold patchwork of fields stretching into a haze of heat. Far, far away in the distance, through the haze, Will thought he could see dark trees, and behind them, the purple sweep of mountains and the long glimmer of the sea, but he could not be sure. Only one thing out there seemed distinct, a glowing principle of light rising out of the hazy green blur where the lost land seemed to meet the sea. "Look at that," Bran said. For a moment his hand hovered in the air beside Guion's, his fingers looking milky pale and very young beside the lean brown hand with its dark ring. "That there, we saw it from the mountain, Will, remember? Above Clwyd Mathlon." He glanced ruefully at Will. "Another world, isn't it? Do you know, I've completely forgotten them. Do you think they're all right?" "I think so," Will said slowly. He was staring out at the hazed horizon, but not seeing it, lost in a concern that had been flickering through his mind. First, they came to the Lost Land. I wish I knew where Merriman was. I can't reach him, Bran. I can't reach him. I can't hear him, even though I think he meant to be here with us." "So he did, old one," Guion said unexpectedly, "but the enchantment of the Lost Land keeps him away if he has missed the only moment for breaking it." Will turned sharply to him, a deep instinct stirring. "You know him, don't you? Some time along back you have been close to Merriman." "Very close," Guion said, with an ache of affection deep in the words. "And one thing I am permitted to say to you now that you have spoken of him to me, he should have been here to join you in this palace, but I am beginning to fear that in some way the dark has held him back on the other world of yours, and if now he has lost a moment for entering the Lost Land, he cannot now come." Will said, "Not at all?" "No," Guion said. Will suddenly realized how much he had been hoping for Merriman's strong presence to be there soon as a support. He swallowed down panic and looked at Bran. "Then we have nothing but what the lady said, and we shall find the crystal sword in the glass tower among the 7 trees where the horn will stop the wheel," Bran said. "And a white bone will prevent us, and a flying Maytree will save us, whatever that may mean." "Glass tower," Will said again. His eyes went back to the gleaming pencil on the horizon. Guion said, "There is Caervarder. Out there where you are looking, the castle of the Lost Land with its glass tower, where my master seats wrapped in a deathly melancholy that none can take away." His voice was bleak and sad. Will said hesitantly, "May we know more than that?" "Oh, yes," Guion said somberly. "There are things I must tell you of the land and of the sword for Merlin's sake." Guess what he called Merriman? Merlin. Get it? As much as I can. He came to the edge of the golden balustrade and gripped its rim with both hands, looking out over the city. His beard jutted, and the strong nose was outlined against the sky. He looked like a profiled head from a coin. He said, "The land is neither the dark nor the light, nor ever was. Its enchantment was of a separate kind, the magic of the mind and the hand and the eye that owes no allegiance, because it is not good nor bad. It is no more to do with the behavior of men or the great absolutes of the light and the dark than does the blossom of a rose or the curving leap of a fish. Yet our craftsmen, the greatest ever in time, or out of it, did not care to work for the dark. They did their most marvelous work for the lords of the light. They wove tapestries, carved thrones and chests, forged candlesticks of silver and gold. They wrought 4 of the 6 great signs of the light." Will looked up quickly. Guion smiled at him. "Ha-ha, sign seeker," he said gently. "Long, long ago in the Lost Land, forgotten by all its people now, there was the beginning of the gold-linked chain of yours, iron and bronze and water and fire, and at the last, a craftsman of this land made the great sword Erias for the light." Bran said tense, "Who made it?" It was made by one who was close to the light, Guion said, but he was neither a lord of the light nor one of the old ones. There are none such bred in this land. He was the only one who had the skill to make so great a wonder. Even here, where many are skilled, a great craftsman, unparalleled, he spoke with slow reverence, shaking his head in wonder, remembering. But the riders of the dark, they could roam freely through our land, since we had neither desire nor reason to keep any creature out, and when they heard that the light had asked for the sword, they demanded that it should not be made. They knew, of course, that words already long written foretold the use of Erias, once it was forged for the vanquishing of the dark. Will said, "What did he do, the craftsman?" "He called together all the makers in the land," Guion said. He tilted his head a little higher. "All those who wrote or brought life to others, words or music, or who made beautiful things. And he said to them, I have this work in me, I know it. That will be the peak of everything I can ever make or do, and the dark is trying to forbid me to do it. We may all suffer if I deny them their will, but I cannot therefore be responsible alone for deciding. Tell me what I should do." Bran was gazing at him. "What did they say?" "They said, you must make it," Guion smiled proudly. "Without any exception, make the sword, they said. So he went away into a place of his own and made Erias. And in a land of wonders, it was the most wonderful and powerful thing that had ever been made. And the fury of the dark was very great, but impotent. For the Dark Lords knew that they could neither destroy a work created for the light, nor steal it, nor bring any harm to its creator." He fell silent, gazing out at the misted horizon. "Go on," Bran said urgently. "Go on!" Guion sighed. "So the dark did a simple thing," he said. "They showed the maker of the sword his own uncertainty and fear. Fear of having done the wrong thing. Fear that, having done this one great thing, he would never again be able to accomplish anything of great worth. Fear of age, of insufficiency, of unmet promise. All such endless fears that are the doom of people given the gift of making and lie always somewhere in their minds, and gradually he was put into despair. Fear grew in him. He escaped from it into lethargy, and so spared. And so hope died, and a terrible, paralyzing melancholy took its place. He is held by it now, and is held captive by mind, he and the sword Erias that he made with him. Despair holds him prisoner, despair, and the most terrible creation of all. For in great men the mind can produce great specters of great power, and King Gwynno is a great man." "The king," Will said slowly. "The king of the lost land made the sword?" "Yes." Guion said, "Long, long ago, the king went alone into his castle into the glass tower of Caervarder, and he made the sword Erias, and there he and the sword have been ever since, held in a trap made by the king himself, and only you, perhaps, may spring that trap." He seemed to be speaking to both of them, but he was looking at Bran. Bran said, his pale face drawn by horror, All alone since then? Hasn't anyone ever seen him?" "I have seen him," Guion said, but there was suddenly such pain in his voice that no one asked him anything more. The sun was warmed on their faces, heart and heat grew in the gold and crystal banding of the dome, and the roofs of the city shimmered before them. Somewhere in the distance, out over the green fields of the lost land, Will heard a seagull cry. He had a sudden illusion of Merriman's presence, and had once then a sense of great urgency. Merriman was not there, not even to be heard in the mind. He knew it, and yet the urgency lingered as if it were an echo from something happening somewhere else, a long way away. Will looked at Guion's face and could see the awareness of it there, too. Their eyes met. "Yes," Guion said. "It is time. You must journey to the castle, cross the country that lies between, and that I have made possible as far as I can. But I cannot tell you what you may encounter on the way, nor protect you against it. And remember, you are in the Lost Land, and it is the enchantment of the land which is in command here." He looked anxiously at the gleaming distant tower on the horizon. "Look well now at the place where you must go. Set your minds on reaching it, and then come." Excuse me, I'm so sorry, y'all. Somebody is talking about me. I can't be sleepy because I went to bed at a decent time. Silliness. They looked once at the finger of light far out in the haze, and then they followed Guion back down the staircase into the empty palace where no king now lived. But even though the king was gone, they saw now that the palace still held others beside Guion, and they found that they had been there before. When they were halfway down the curving staircase, Guion opened a door in the wall that Will had not noticed before. He led them down a different stair, straighter and shallower, and in towards the center of the palace, and all at once they heard a faint murmur of voices ahead and found themselves in a long wood-paneled room, filled with books and bookshelves and heavy tables. It was the long gallery, the room like a library. Will's eyes went to the side wall and saw that there still was the darkness, empty space with no light or shadow visible. The great theater in which all life might be played. Other things, though, were not the same as before. People crowded the room now, filling it with a warm buzz of conversation, and any who glanced up at the three of them standing in the doorway smiled or raised a hand in greeting. They walked through, up and down over the strangely differing levels of its floors. Many people they passed spoke a word or two to Guion, and the warmth was clear in every face that looked at Will and Bran. One woman touched Will gently on the shoulder as they went by and said, "Safe journey to you." As he looked up startled, he heard a man beside them say softly to Bran, "Pav Hivel." Bran said in his ear, "Good luck," he said. How did they all know? Will shook his head wonderingly. They followed Guion's neat, dark-clad figure down the room, walking quickly, and then at the far end a man who had been standing bent over a large book on a table straightened and turned as they approached, putting out a hand to halt them. Will thought he remembered the face as that of the man to whom he had spoken when they had first been in the room. A man who had not then seemed to see or hear him, and who had been reading a book whose pages were blank. "See before you go," the man said with the lilt of North Wales stranger and is stronger in his voice than Will heard it from Guion or even Bran. "There is a part of this book that you must see and remember." "Remember," said Guion softly, looking at them, and the echo woke in both their minds. The book lay open before them in the heavy oak table, and on one curving volume page was a painting, and on the other a single line of words. Will was staring at the picture. In a stylized green world of trees and lawns among beds of roses bright as those where they had encountered the rider, it showed the figure of a young woman, fair-cladded, robed in blue, standing looking out at them. Her face was heart-shaped, fine-boned, and delicately beautiful, and she was serious, neither smiling nor sad. "It is the lady," Will said. Bran said in surprise, "But you said she was very old." He reacted for a moment. "Of course, that just depends, doesn't it?" "It is the lady," Will said again slowly. "There's that big rose-colored ring on her finger, too. I've never seen her without it. And look there, in the picture behind her, isn't that—" "The fountain!" Bran peered closely, looking out over his glasses. "It's the same fountain, the one we were at in the park, and so that must be the same rose garden. But how?" Will had his finger on the line of thick black manuscript on the facing page. He read aloud, "I am the queen of every hive." "Remember," the man said. He closed the book. "Remember," Guion said, "and then go." Facing them, he put one hand briefly on the shoulder of each and looked carefully into their eyes. "Do you know this place, the gallery we are in?" "Of course, so you will remember the way by which you came into it that you must follow now." "I stay here for a while. There are men and women of some art in this place, and they will tell me what they can of Merriman. I will be with you again, but you must go on now, at once." Will looked down and found the square open trapdoor in the floor and the ladder leading down beneath. "That way?" "That way," Guion said. "And then take what you will find, and the finding will start you on your way." Strong, gray-bearded face broke into its warm, illumining smile. "Go well, my friends." Down into the shadows Bran and Will clambered, more confident than when they had scrambled up the ladder in the early morning, linked by the little horn that hung forgotten again now from Will's belt. On level ground once more, they groped their way forward in the murk and came into the small wooden door. Will felt its pitted surface with the flat of his hands. No handle or anything on this side either. "It opened outwards, didn't it? Perhaps you just push." At the first gentle pressure, the door did swing outward so that they stood blinking for a moment at the light of the street outside. Then they went out, the door swinging shut behind them with a crash that showed it would not open so easily again. And there in the narrow shady street waiting for them were the two white-maned golden horses they had ridden there so long and so short a time ago. The horses tossed their heads as if in greeting. The silver harness rang like sleigh bells. Without a word, Will and Bran swung themselves up into the saddles with the same unaccountable ease as before, and the horses trotted away up the narrow street between the high gray walls with the thin bright strip of blue sky far above. They came out into a broader place filled with people who seemed at once to recognize them, who stood waving, calling out, and greeting. The horses walked carefully through the crowd. The calling grew into a spasmodic cheering. Children ran alongside them, laughing and hallooing. Bran and Will grinning at one another in pleased embarrassment. On they went down the proud paved street until they reached a towering wall and a great gateway in through which the road ran. Through the arch they could see a glimpse of green fields and distant trees. The crowd stood thick before the arch, but the golden horses went stepping on, never pausing, nudging their way gently through. "Good fortune to you! Safe travels! A good journey!" All around, the people of the city called and waved. Children ran and danced and shouted. A group of girls beside the gate stood laughing and throwing flowers. Will put his hand, half in self-defense, and caught a wide red rose. Looking down, he saw the dark-haired girl who had thrown it, blushing and smiling. He grinned at her and stuck the flower into his top pocket. Then all at once they were outside the great gate of the city, and all the crowd was gone. Before them lay great, broad green fields, and a roughly sandy road stretching brown gold into the distance, with a wood beyond. The voices from the city died away. Somewhere a lark sang in the summer sky, a blue sky patched here and there with puffy fair weather clouds. The sun high amongst them now. The horses turned up the sandy road and went on without breaking step at a steady walk. Bran eyed the flower in Will's pocket. "Ooh," he said in a mocking falsetto. "A wild rose, is it?" Will said amiably, "Get lost. Not so pretty as Jane, that one who threw it." "As who?" Will said. "Jane threw. Don't you think she's pretty, then?" "I suppose so, yes," Will said, surprised. "I never thought about it." Bran said, "One good thing about you, you're uncomplicated." But Will's mind had jumped backward. He wound the loose rein thoughtfully round one figure as he swayed steadily to and fro on the tall horse. "I hope they're all right back there." Bran said abruptly, "Better forget them for now." Will looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Without speaking, Bran pointed out to one side past him. In the distance, across the flat green fields, Will saw a patch of black and white. Moving fast in a direction parallel to the road along which they were traveling, he knew it could only be the riders of the dark heading like themselves for the castle of the Lost Land. And that is where we will end for today. And now it's a race to the castle of King Gwynor and Erias, the Sword of Light. But we will check that out next time we meet. I love you, dear lovelies. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.